Before this story goes any further, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. These old frontier stories only survive because you keep listening. They didn't mean to kill her. Not right away. That's what made it worse. The men who tied Clara Voss to that oak tree near Fort Griffin didn't rush. They didn't argue. They worked slow and practiced, like ranch hands tying down a stubborn steer. The rope was clean. The knot was neat. The kind of knot meant for coming back. They left her hanging there in the Texas heat with one arm stretched above her head, toes barely touching the dirt. Long enough to hurt. Long enough to scare. Long enough to teach her what silence felt like. By the time Elias Mercer rode up, the sun had burned the mercy out of the sky. He saw her before he heard her. A young woman, dress torn, skin streaked with dust and sweat, one bare leg scraped raw where she had kicked against the trunk. Her wrist was swollen where the rope bit deep. Her face was set hard, not crying, not begging. Just enduring. For one long, shameful moment, Elias did not look away. Not because he wanted to. Because shock freezes a man faster than fear. Elias was 60 years old. Widowed. Alone. A man who had gone too long without hearing a woman's voice in his house. Loneliness had hollowed him out in quiet ways he never spoke about. And for 1 second, standing in that brutal Texas light, his eyes stayed where they had no right to stay. Then her voice cut through him. Turn away. Not a plea. An order. Low. Cracked. Full of pain and pride mixed together. Turn. Away. It hit Elias harder than a rifle, but he snapped his head to the side so fast his hat brim dipped low. His face burned. His chest tightened. Shame crawled up his spine. He had crossed a line. And out here, crossing a line had a way of following you the rest of your life. He shrugged off his heavy, sun-faded coat and held it out behind him without looking. Cover yourself, he said. I ain't looking again. She hesitated only a second before pulling the coat around her chest and waist. Not for comfort. For control. Only then did Elias step closer, eyes locked on the rope instead of her. That's when he saw the knot. Not sloppy. Not desperate. Professional. That was when Elias knew this wasn't some drunk ranch hand's cruelty. This was business. He cut the rope with one sharp pull of his knife. The fibers snapped. Clara sagged hard. He caught her by the elbow, steady, careful, never pulling her close. They said they'd be back, she said. Her voice shook, but she did not cry. Said I'd still be here. Elias felt something cold settle in his gut. Boot prints in the dust. 3 horses. Maybe 4. They don't want you going north, Elias said. Her eyes snapped up. Sharp. Alert. No, she said. They don't. That was when Elias knew she wasn't just a victim. She was a problem. The kind of problem powerful men don't leave alone. What's your name? He asked. Clara Voss. Names carried weight on the frontier. Some carried death. The wind shifted. Faint sound of hooves. Distant. But coming back. Elias handed her his canteen. Drink. Then we ride. You're helping me, she said. I made a mistake a minute ago, Elias replied. I'm not making another. He held out his hand. Clara stared at it for a second too long. Then she took it. And somewhere behind them, men who didn't like loose ends were already turning their horses. They didn't ride fast. Fast draws eyes. They rode smart. Elias cut into low ground, then into tall grass, then into a dry draw he had used before when men were hunting him for different reasons. He didn't explain. Clara didn't ask. Out here, explanations came after survival. At the lean-to, Elias found fresh sign. Boot scuffs. A bent branch. Someone had already been there. That meant the men who tied Clara weren't just cruel. They were organized. And organized men never quit. That night, while Clara slept wrapped in his coat, Elias stayed awake. He listened to the wind. He listened for hooves. He listened for the sound of men who thought they owned other people. By morning, Elias knew one thing. If Clara stayed here, she would die. If she went north, she might still die. But north was where men talked. North was where paper mattered. North was where secrets got heavy. We ride for Dodge City, Elias said. Clara looked at him. That's where men like them have friends, she said. That's also where they have enemies, Elias replied. They rode. And behind them, dust rose again. Not cattle. Before we go on, hit like and subscribe, because what happens next is where this story stops being about survival and starts being about power. Dodge City didn't feel like a town. It felt like a machine. Smoke from rail engines. Cattle bawling in the pens. Men shouting prices, names, curses, prayers. Money changing hands so fast it looked like magic. On the trail, dust decided things. In town, paper did. Deputy Frank Malloy met them near the freight office. Clean vest. Shiny star. Smile practiced enough to feel real. Unattached young women causing disturbance get held, Malloy said easily. That was how it started. Not with shouting. Not with violence. With rules. They took Clara. Not rough. Not loud. Professional. Elias stepped forward. This is a mistake, he said. Malloy smiled thinner. That's for the paperwork to decide. They arrested Elias minutes later. Kidnapping. Possession of stolen documents. Improper conduct. Big clean words. Dirty meaning. They walked him past the cattle pens where buyers pretended not to look. They set up a rope in the square. Not to use. To show. Pressure does not need blood. It needs time. That's when Wade Hollister arrived. Black hat. Gray coat. Boots polished just enough. A man who wore power like it belonged to him. Sign a statement, Hollister told Elias quietly. Say you found the papers. Say you meant no harm. You walk away alive. Elias looked at Clara across the square. She didn't nod. She didn't beg. She just looked back. No, Elias said. That was when Hollister's smile died. That night, Clara chose noise. She went to men who worked with ink instead of guns. A printer. An old lawyer with shaking hands and a sharp mind. Men who hated lies written in clean language. She showed them the seal. She showed them the map. She told them just enough. Truth doesn't shout at first. It stacks. In the loudest saloon in town, fists flew. Glass shattered. Men stumbled. Outside, Malloy stepped out for air. Inside the jail, a latch sat wrong. Just for a second. Elias didn't ask why. He walked. Not free. Just fast. They ran. Lantern light. Cattle pens. Crowds forming. Clara held up the seal. Railroad men recognized it. The printer knew what it would do to reputations. The lawyer nodded. Slow. Certain. Malloy cleared his throat. For once, he said, this will be handled properly. Hollister realized too late. This wasn't a fight he could buy. Not with witnesses. Not with ink. Not with men who wanted a story. They took Hollister. Not because he was weak. Because he was seen. After that, Dodge City went quiet in a dangerous way. Quiet means men are thinking. Quiet means deals are being made. Quiet means someone is deciding who lives easy and who lives hard. The paper ran the story. Not loud. Not cruel. True. Hollister lost control. Not all at once. Piece by piece. Elias was cleared. No apology. No parade. Just freedom that felt heavier than chains. Clara stayed. Not because she had nowhere else to go. Because she chose to. They went back to Elias's land. Not to hide. But to live where the ground didn't lie. Sometimes Elias still saw the rope when he closed his eyes. Sometimes Clara still rubbed her wrist where the scar stayed. Neither of them pretended it was gone. Out in the Wild West, legends were made with guns. But some lives were changed with something harder. Truth. Witnesses. And a refusal to stay quiet. Writers.